Let me tell you something that most people in the medical world are not saying loudly enough. Your age, the number itself, means almost nothing when it comes to predicting how well you are living. In more than 3 decades of working with older patients, I have sat across from people in their late 60s who were already fading, losing their independence, their sharpness, their sense of being alive. And I have sat across from people pushing 80 who were sharper, stronger, and more engaged with life than most people half their age. The difference between those two groups was never luck. It was never family history. It was a specific set of abilities that science has now identified as the most reliable predictors of how long you will live, how independently you will live, and how fully you will experience the years you have left. A major study that tracked more than 40,000 adults over the age of 65 for 12 years produced findings that genuinely changed how I counsel patients. The people who maintained 8 specific physical and cognitive abilities into their 70s and 80s were 67% less likely to ever need a nursing facility. They were 72% less likely to develop dementia, and they lived an average of 11 years longer in full independence compared to those who had lost these abilities. 11 years. Think about what 11 years actually means. It is watching grandchildren grow into adults. It is anniversaries, quiet mornings, the dignity of doing things for yourself on your own terms. Today, we are going to go through 8 of those abilities, counting down from number 8 to number 1. And I will tell you right now, number 2 is the one that surprises people the most every single time. It is something almost no doctor talks about, something no pharmaceutical company will ever bottle, and it is one of the strongest predictors of whether your brain will still be sharp and clear at 85. Do not skip ahead. Before we begin, leave a comment below and tell me your age and the one physical activity that still makes you feel most alive. I read every single comment. Now, let us begin. Number 8 is the ability to rise from the floor without using your hands. I know that might sound like a simple thing, but I want you to understand the weight of what that movement actually represents. Researchers tracked 2,000 adults over 6 years and published their findings in a major cardiovascular journal. What they found was that individuals who needed both hands and both knees to get up from the floor were 5 to 6 times more likely to die during the study period than those who could rise with minimal support. 5 to 6 times. That is not a minor statistical finding. That is a result that changes how we should all think about physical ability in older age. Here is the biology behind why this matters so much. After the age of 70, the body begins losing fast-twitch muscle fibers at an accelerated pace. The explosive fibers responsible for catching you when you stumble, for generating the rapid upward force that pulls you off the ground, for keeping you from becoming a fall statistic. Falls, I want to be direct with you, are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. The act of rising from the floor without hand support tests your leg strength, your core stability, your hip mobility, and your neurological coordination, all in a single movement. You cannot fake any one of those elements. If you want to protect and build this ability, begin sitting cross-legged on the floor a few times each week, and practice rising without support. Combine this with resistance exercises targeting the legs and hips, and make sure your vitamin D levels are adequate. Research has consistently shown that deficiency in this vitamin accelerates muscle fiber loss in older adults at a significant rate. Number 7 is the ability to balance on one leg for at least 10 seconds with your eyes open. I understand that this sounds almost playful, but the research attached to it is anything but. A study published in a respected British medical journal in 2022 followed over 1,700 adults between the ages of 51 and 75. Those who could not hold a 10-second single-leg balance had an 84% higher risk of dying from any cause over the following decade. 84%. That number caused a genuine stir in the medical community when it was published. What is happening in your body during that 10-second test is far more complex than it appears on the surface. Your cerebellum, the part of the brain that coordinates movement and spatial awareness, is firing in rapid, layered patterns. Your inner ear is communicating with your eyes, your joints, and your spinal cord in real time. After 70, this entire integrated system begins to deteriorate unless it is deliberately and consistently trained. Think of it like a communication network. If the signals are not regularly sent, the pathways begin to weaken and disconnect. The practical solution is straightforward. Stand on one leg while brushing your teeth every morning and every night, 30 seconds per side. As that becomes manageable, progress to doing it with your eyes closed, which engages significantly deeper neurological pathways. Research has also shown that a large majority of adults over 70 are deficient in magnesium, a mineral that plays a critical role in neuromuscular communication and essentially acts as the maintenance crew for your nervous system's wiring. Number 6 is the ability to walk a quarter mile, 4 city blocks, without stopping to rest. This sounds modest, and that is precisely why it catches people off guard when they learn what the research says about it. A major study from a leading American medical university that followed thousands of adults over 65 found that walking endurance was among the most reliable survival predictors in that age group. In some analyses, more reliable than cholesterol or blood pressure readings alone. Adults who could not walk a quarter mile continuously had a 40% higher mortality rate over the study period. The physiology behind this is worth understanding. Sustaining a quarter mile of continuous walking requires your heart, lungs, leg muscles, and circulatory system to work in coordinated effort for an extended period. After 75, the body's capacity to deliver oxygen efficiently to working muscles declines at a meaningful rate with each passing decade. The tiny cellular power plants inside your muscle cells, called mitochondria, decline in both number and efficiency as we age. But here is what makes this hopeful rather than discouraging. Regular walking directly stimulates the creation of new mitochondria through a process that researchers call mitochondrial biogenesis. Every time you walk, you are signaling your body to build more of these energy generators. This week, walk outside, not on a treadmill, but outside where the terrain shifts slightly and your brain must engage with the environment. Walk 4 blocks without stopping. If you manage that, add 1 more block the following week. Small progressions compound into remarkable results over months. Number 5 is the ability to carry on a meaningful conversation while doing something physical at the same time. Walking and talking, cooking while catching up with a family member, gardening while listening and genuinely responding to something playing in your earphones. This might sound completely ordinary, but the research attached to it is striking. Studies from a major Alzheimer's research organization found that adults who struggle to maintain a conversation while walking, a pattern researchers specifically named stop walking when talking, show measurably accelerated cognitive decline compared to those who can manage both simultaneously. The reason comes down to what is called dual tasking and what it demands of the brain. Doing something physical and something cognitively engaging at the same time requires your prefrontal cortex, your working memory, and your motor planning circuits to all function in concert. When these systems can coordinate, it means the different regions of your brain are still communicating with each other efficiently and quickly. When they cannot, it is one of the earliest measurable signals of neurological aging. Think of your brain as a city and your cognitive functions as different neighborhoods. The roads between them are your neural connections. Dual tasking is rush hour. It reveals whether the infrastructure can handle real traffic. Every day, intentionally combine a physical and a mental task. Walk while doing mental arithmetic out loud. Cook a recipe you have never made before while holding a phone conversation. Garden while listening to something that genuinely engages your mind. These are not hobbies, they are neurological training. Number 4 is the ability to read standard-sized text without optical magnification. This one surprises people because it rarely enters the conversation about aging and cognition, but the evidence behind it is genuinely important. A major study involving nearly 3,000 adults over 65 found that those with uncorrected vision problems experienced cognitive decline at 2.5 times the rate of those with normal or corrected vision. 2.5 times. The eyes are not separate from the brain. They are a direct extension of the central nervous system. The health of the macula, the clarity of the lens, the integrity of the optic nerve, these are literal windows into the health of your brain. After 70, the eyes lose a significant portion of their light sensitivity due to natural changes in the pupil and lens, and retinal cells begin losing their regenerative capacity. Inflammation, the slow, silent process that underlies most age-related disease, plays a central role in conditions like macular degeneration, which research links to accelerated cognitive decline through mechanisms scientists are still working to fully understand. Dark leafy greens, kale, spinach, Swiss chard, contain specific compounds that research from a leading national eye institute has shown can reduce the risk of macular degeneration meaningfully. Eat them daily. Limit screen exposure in the hour before sleep. Your eyes and your brain are more interconnected than most people realize. Number 3 is the ability to recall a short list of items from memory after 30 minutes have passed. Someone mentions 4 things they need from the store. Half an hour later, without having written anything down, you can still name all 4. This ability, what neuroscientists call delayed verbal recall, is one of the most sensitive indicators of hippocampal health that exists outside a clinical laboratory. The hippocampus is the brain's memory consolidation center, and it is the first structure that Alzheimer's disease begins to damage. Research from a major medical university found that adults over 70 who performed well on delayed recall tasks had hippocampal volumes 30% larger than those who struggled with the same tasks. 30%. That is not a marginal anatomical difference. That is the neurological equivalent of having meaningfully more storage, faster retrieval, and significantly greater resilience against the kind of damage that leads to dementia. After 75, the brain begins losing a small percentage of its volume annually, and the hippocampus is particularly vulnerable because it is one of the only regions in the adult brain still capable of generating new neurons. A process that slows significantly with inactivity, poor sleep, chronic stress, and inflammatory eating patterns. Every one of those factors is within your control. Challenge your recall actively and deliberately. Read a chapter of something, close it, and try to reconstruct what you read in your own words. Learn new names at social gatherings and make a point of using them. Research has also shown that regular aerobic exercise can actually increase hippocampal volume in adults over 65. Not slow the shrinkage, but reverse it. A brain that is actively used and physically supported is a brain that continues to grow. Number 2. This is the one I told you would surprise you. The ability to feel genuine excitement and anticipation about something in your future. I can already sense some of you wondering what this is doing on a medical list. I want to be completely direct with you. This is one of the most medically significant abilities on this entire list, and it is one of the least discussed in clinical settings. What I am describing is the functioning of your brain's dopamine reward system, the network of neurons that fires when you anticipate something meaningful, pleasurable, or new. Dopamine is far more than the so-called feel-good chemical. It is the chemical of motivation, of forward-looking engagement, of the feeling that the future holds something worth moving toward. After 70, the brain loses dopamine receptors at a meaningful rate per decade, with the most significant losses occurring in the regions responsible for motivation and the experience of reward. When this system significantly degrades, something happens that most physicians never discuss with older patients. A person gradually stops feeling that the future holds anything worth anticipating. They lose interest in planning ahead, in novelty, in genuine connection. They describe the experience as the world going gray. This is not ordinary sadness or a natural acceptance of aging. It is a clinical state called anhedonia, the measurable reduction in the capacity to experience pleasure, and it is one of the strongest predictors of rapid physical and cognitive decline in older adults. A 20-year study found that adults with a strong sense of purpose and things to genuinely look forward to were 48% less likely to develop Alzheimer's and lived an average of 7 years longer than those without it. 7 years of genuinely living, not just passing time. The prescription here is deliberate and consistent. Schedule something to look forward to every single week without exception. It does not need to be expensive or elaborate. A meal somewhere new, a conversation with someone you have not spoken to in too long, a book that genuinely interests you, a new route on your walk, a recipe you have never attempted. Novelty is neurological medicine. It triggers dopamine release and drives the formation of new neural connections. and reach out to someone you love today after this video ends. Research consistently shows that rich social connection actively preserves the very dopamine receptor density we are discussing. That phone call is as therapeutic as anything I could prescribe. And number one, the ability that underpins every single other item on this list, the one that functions as the foundation beneath all others. The ability to sleep fully and wake up genuinely rested. I saved this for last because without it, none of the other abilities on this list can be fully maintained or recovered. Sleep is not passive. Sleep is not simply the absence of wakefulness. Sleep is the most intensive biological maintenance process your body runs, and it runs it exclusively during the hours you are unconscious. During deep sleep specifically, the brain activates what researchers describe as its overnight cleaning system. Specialized fluid pathways that open and flush out the toxic waste products that accumulate in your neurons throughout the day. The most critical of these waste products is a protein that, when it accumulates, forms the plaques that define Alzheimer's disease. Research published in a major scientific journal confirmed that this cleaning system is 60% more active during sleep than during wakefulness. Every night of poor sleep means the cleaning crew finishes only part of the job, and the remainder accumulates. After 70, reaching the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep becomes significantly more difficult. Research has found that older adults spend dramatically less time in deep sleep than younger adults. And less deep sleep means less overnight cleaning, which means faster neurological aging. This is not a theory or a hypothesis. It is a documented biological chain of consequence that researchers now consider one of the central mechanisms driving dementia. What can you do about it starting tonight? Anchor your schedule. Wake at the same time every morning, including weekends, because your internal clock is governed by consistency and by morning light. Get outside within 30 minutes of waking and let natural daylight reach your eyes. This resets your melatonin production cycle and significantly improves your ability to reach deep sleep that night. Keep your bedroom cool. Your core body temperature must drop to initiate the deepest stages of sleep, and a cool environment accelerates that process. Avoid alcohol within 4 hours of bedtime. Despite the feeling of relaxation it creates, alcohol is one of the most effective destroyers of deep and restorative sleep known to science, reducing both key sleep stages by up to 40% even from moderate consumption. And consider magnesium, a specific form developed at a leading technology institute that crosses into the brain more effectively than standard forms and has been shown in clinical trials to increase deep sleep duration in older adults meaningfully. Pair it with 3 grams of glycine taken 30 minutes before bed, which research has shown reduces core body temperature and measurably improves both sleep quality and next-day mental performance. I want to tell you about a woman in her early 70s who came in after 4 years of almost no uninterrupted sleep. She was developing word-finding difficulties, losing her balance more often than before, and gaining weight despite eating carefully. We rebuilt her sleep entirely using the approach I just described. Consistent wake time, morning light exposure, a cool bedroom, the right supplementation, and no alcohol near bedtime. Within 60 days, she was sleeping 7 continuous hours. Within 6 months, her word-finding difficulties had largely resolved, her balance had improved, and she had lost weight without making any deliberate dietary changes. Her story is not unusual. I have watched versions of it play out more times than I can count. Sleep is the master medicine. It is the intervention that makes every other intervention work. Here is what I want to leave you with. If you are 70, 75, or 80 years old and you can still rise from the floor, balance on one leg, walk without stopping, think and move simultaneously, see clearly, remember what matters, feel genuine excitement about what is coming, and sleep deeply and wake restored, you are not merely healthy. You belong to a genuinely rare category of people. You are living proof of what is possible. And if some of these abilities have dimmed, hear this clearly. It is not too late. The research on this point is unambiguous. The human body, even at 75, even at 80, retains a remarkable capacity for adaptation and recovery when it is given what it needs. Adults who begin aerobic training in their 70s show measurable cardiovascular improvement within 8 weeks. Adults who begin strength training in their 80s gain real muscle. Adults who forge new social connections in their mid-70s show improved cognitive scores within a year. Your biology has not stopped responding to the choices you make today. Not even close. Independence is not just practical, it is dignity. It is pouring your own coffee in the morning. It is driving yourself to see someone you love. It is looking in the mirror and knowing that the person looking back is still fully, vibrantly alive. You are worth that, and the years ahead of you are worth fighting for. If this gave you something today, information, perspective, or simply the reminder that your body is still worth investing in, subscribe so you never miss what comes next. And leave a comment telling me which of these 8 abilities surprised you most and which one you are going to start working on this week. I will read every single one because your story is exactly why this work matters.